You're live. All right, good evening. At this time, I would call to order the March 19th meeting of the Columbia Borough Planning Commission. I would note that the meeting was duly posted in a timely manner on the borough site. If we could please stand for a moment of silence. The Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on our agenda here, do I have a motion regarding the minutes as presented in your packet?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Tiffany. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Marilyn. One thing I saw here under action items regarding ordinance 929, the second line there, it says to rezone parcels in the east end of Columbia. That actually dealt with the north end of Columbia, out Cedar, 2nd Street, North 2nd Street. So I would like to have that correction made, if there is agreement with that. Okay, are you good with that correction too?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion, comments regarding the minutes? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we have no zoning hearing scheduled, no engineer report, no demolition applications. One thing I can update with regards to the 3 properties on Cherry Street, that Holy Trinity has already had approval for demolition based on an announcement made in the church, of which I am a member. That will be moving forward sometime in the near future. Part of what was holding that up was that the Diocese of Harrisburg had to actually approve, their acquisition of the one property, their acceptance of it, and to approve any plans going forward. So, but they still intend to have meetings of parishioners to decide the final use of those properties. So that is something that will be happening. Okay, we have no action items this evening. Zoning ordinance text amendments. This goes back to our 2019 ordinance that was passed in December of 2019. We got mixed up with COVID. We never got to doing it. As part of that, the zoning amendments also fall under that. And I'm understanding that Jess will be at our April meeting. In a discussion I had with the borough manager, she will be coming to our April planning meeting. And I will tell you, I feel that I know some about zoning, about making changes, about what we want to see done. But I feel that Jess guided us through the comp plan, and she saw where we were headed with the neighborhoods, and the discussion we had in December that we were going to follow up with in January. and didn't happen. She actually came back and had given us for our January meeting, condensed our ideas, what we were looking at there. And I think at this time, I had hoped that she would have been able to come this evening when I was talking to Paula to do the agenda. And then Mark told me she would be here in April. But one of the things that was part of the comp plan, which, did you say something to Mark about us wanting
did.
hard copies?
He said he was working on it.
Okay. One of the things out of the comp plan was a future land use map. And it actually cuts down on the number of our zoning districts. And I don't know how the rest of you feel, and I wish you would, speak up. I think we have too many zoning districts.
Yeah,
We have way too many zoning districts. Months ago, I went in and pulled up, I have Ephrata, I have Lidditz, and Mount Joy. And one of the things that I saw in Ephrata that I really liked, instead of a downtown commercial district, they have a central business district. And I would like to pursue to see what that entails, what the criteria is for a central business district. And possibly we keep a neighborhood commercial, but the downtown strictly becomes the central business district. The central business district, and please speak up. I feel like I'm just going on here. That the central business district would run Cherry to Walnut, Fifth to Front. That would be your central business district. Right now, that's basically your downtown commercial.
And you're saying eliminate the downtown commercial altogether?
Yes.
From zoning?
Right now, if you look at our table of permitted uses, the downtown commercial and the neighborhood commercial are basically the same. And if you were to do a central business district and define that, I would look at redefining what a neighborhood commercial is to make it more neighborhood, but yet to allow, your stores, maybe your personal service places, maybe attorney's office, things like that within a neighborhood. And the other thing we would need to look at is, like right now we have the medium density residential business. That is the only place that short-term rentals are allowed. And, we need to look at some of those things also. But these are things that I feel need to be discussed to move forward with making any changes. And to me, the first thing we need to do is define what zoning districts we want before we go into text amendments and permitted uses within that. And what I can do, or if anybody cares to do, the same thing I did. Went in, pulled up some of these things.
The other codes.
The other codes. And the reason I went with Ephrata, Lidditz, and Mount Joy is that they are other boroughs within Lancaster County. And I think this is a direction we need to go, to define just what districts we want before we start doing changes to them.
Well, you look at the future land use map and it does that to a degree.
To a degree.
Fifth to
The
to
front.
the river, yeah,
Mhm.
fifth to front, and the alley in between Cherry and Locust
Right.
to just beyond Chestnut.
Mhm.
And that's, you look at the future land use map and there's really, 6 different
Right.
zones, if you will. You got the industrial, which is pretty, it is what it is, where, those locations are kind of fixed. But then it's just downtown mixed use, which is what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And then there's also the gateway commercial, which is out the highway there. But yeah, there's a handful of districts.
So with Jessica not here,
17. Right now, we have 17 zoning districts.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to think about how to consolidate them
Yeah.
before we can
Mhm.
get the definition of anything. How can we consolidate, like, try to get it down to 10 or even
This is
down
a
to
good-
14?
This is
Yeah,
a good
that's-
guide.
Yeah, this one's a
The
good
map,
guide.
future land
This,
use map.
Right.
this was part of, like I said, this was
Plan.
out, this was one of the maps out of the comp plan.
Right.
And it makes sense. And like, if you look at Lidditz, what theirs is, this is close to that, but with different names. Kind of. Because like Justin just said, this downtown mixed use, to me, that would be the central business. And you can still, here's a high-density residential downtown, which kind of goes around.
Right.
Which could be your neighborhood commercial, but yet bring some of those other areas in. And industrial's industrial.
Right. Yeah.
Whether it's heavy, right now we have light business, light industrial.
I mean, you can even get away with splitting industrial into 2 classifications. There's things, say like, Mountain Bull that
You
not
would not
necessarily
want.
on the river.
Right, right.
I mean, even though we do have that with the
Right, so-
whatever colonial metal stream into, but those areas are pretty easy to identify as where they're at, and it makes sense to use that to start with. If you're looking at kind of reclassifying, using the future land use map, you start from there, and then if there needs to be sub definition of, again, like industrial, you can split into 2 classes. I think there's probably about 6 or 7 residential zones that we have now.
Oh, yes.
And some of them are just very small spin-offs, like the
Right.
institutional residential.
Right, you have
that sort of thing.
high-density residential multifamily,
Right.
which is your high-rises.
Right.
You're in town. So, Paul, I don't know if it would be to let Jessica know this, or if there would be a chance before next month's meeting for us to sit down and go over this to prepare for the April meeting. I'm not sure exactly what she has on her plate to bring to April. But I'd like to let her know what our discussion was this evening. To look at this future land use map, to look at possibly redoing the map, and then from there go into doing your definitions and permitted uses. My thought is to do your definitions and permitted uses and then try to shoehorn different areas into those definitions. I think that's going backwards.
How about if I send her an email and have you included in it?
Okay.
And maybe between the 2 of you, see what works with her schedule.
Okay. The other thing is that she could look at what we discussed tonight to get an idea. Okay. What are your thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think if you start from there and go, instead of looking at the existing zone,
Mhm.
because that took stock of what's out there now.
Right,
And then, I mean, but we're just talking about the map. The tricky part is making sure that the different uses are compatible, that you're not leaving anything out that is out there that should
Right.
be included.
which is one of the things with zoning, you have to allow for every use at some place within the borough limits.
Right.
You can't exclude. So any more thoughts on that? Nathan, how do you feel about that? Moving forward?
I mean, in general, my life philosophy is to make things as simple as possible. So
All right.
if it can be simplified without having an adverse effect on current residents, citizens, and without placing some sort of undue burden on or inappropriate burden on future development, yeah, I'm all in favor.
Okay. Your thoughts, Marilyn?
I totally agree. I think it just needs to be less. Less is more.
Less is more. Makes it easier to
To
keep track.
read for anybody coming in
Right.
from out of town to say, oh, go check zoning map. And like, it is so confusing now to look at it
Mm-hmm.
and try to see how you can consolidate it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. That's a great.
That's
place to
what
start.
we're looking at. And back there hanging on the wall, and this is what we have now.
Yes, that's much more condensed. And
So-
you would want to do that before the text.
Is there a place I can see the future land use plan?
It is included in the comp plan. Is that
on the board there?
online?
I do not.
I don't know if that's online. I can get you
I'm not sure.
I thought I looked at it there.
a copy of that.
Just from afar, if you hold it up, you can see, or if you want to pop them on,
Yeah.
you can see the differences.
Yeah, this came out of the comp because it's referred to as map 8.2. And if it's, I had thought the comp plan was online. So I can see that you do get a copy if you can't find it. Okay. This is going to be a pretty quick meeting tonight, because like I said, we have no, if,
No action.
right,
So April's when we're starting with Jess.
yes, that's what it looks like. The Jess will be back with us in April. One of the things with doing this, with moving forward with these zoning changes to do the text amendments, the tables and all of that, in an email to me, Mark had suggested possibly going the direction we had with the comp plan. Just to set up an ad hoc committee to deal strictly with those issues, with the zoning issues. And I said, before I would make that decision, I would want to speak to you as members of Planning Commission, if you feel this is something you want to tackle, or if you would sooner have, as we did with the comp plan, a separate committee to strictly deal with the map, the text, and the tables.
I mean, it almost seems as if we knew how much business and action was going to come before us, if it was, most of the meetings were like this, it would be pretty easy to say,
Right,
to have a kind of a plan of attack and break things up by meeting and work on things one meeting at a time.
So my question is this something that, based on the fact that we really, I don't know of anything coming to us as far as
in the next few months.
subdivision and things like that within the next several months, that we couldn't at least start on it.
Right. I guess it might also come down to whether Mark thinks there, maybe some other folks might be helpful. I mean, Jess is our, kind of technical advisor and putting everything together. But whether there's other, people that want to be involved, like anybody from council or whatnot, or if it's just we're being used as a work group to present things to others. So maybe part of that expectation is something that Mark can help with.
And eventually Derek would review, right, and be involved.
To some extent, he would be probably.
Get the meeting. Yeah, I think too, if we don't have upcoming, a lot of action items or things in the near future on the calendar, I think that we can address it here. Directly.
And Jess is giving us direction,
Right.
Yeah, then she
Yes.
can kind of keep us on pace or,
Right. which is very helpful.
yes,
Yeah.
it is, right. And we always have like, well, if we have a question, so there's some homework for,
Right.
like her to do,
Right.
then she can turn around and help us at the next meeting.
I'm wondering if it wouldn't be useful to, rather than try and get a lot of this work done at a regular meeting, if we could have just like a work session meeting that is solely focused on working through some of this stuff.
It's not the first time we've worked like that.
Yeah.
I think we actually
suggested
started
that
out
a
with
few
the
months
comp
ago.
plan, that we were doing that.
We were starting meetings at 6. We would have a special meeting
Just for
before
that.
this.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's how we started. And then if we didn't have a whole lot of business otherwise, we could just keep rolling. If we did, we adjourned and started the 7 o'clock. meeting.
Right.
Yeah. I think that sounds like a good idea.
Depends on Jessica's
Right.
That sounds like a good
availability.
idea. I'm all for it.
Yeah. I'm all for keeping it the
Separate
same day.
session.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people agree, it does need to get tackled and needs to be
Right.
slimmed down and simplified for everybody's
Mhm.
sake.
Right.
You don't want to leave anything out or misjudge something, but everybody's tone is, the simpler the better compared to what we have now.
So would we look at beginning this in April? Or would we look at having our regular meeting in April and have all this discussion with Jess here and then go from there?
I think
With,
that's a good sort
That's
of-
With
probably a
this-
better idea.
with the 6
Yeah.
o'clock meeting possibly, and,
Do you want to meet with Jess at 6 o'clock to discuss it
no,
before
Oh.
next meeting or just the following month?
the following, I think next month we have our regular meeting.
Okay,
Jess is, my understanding is Jessica's supposed to be here at that meeting.
all right.
So we will have this discussion with her at that meeting.
Will she be if we decide to move forward and have our 6 o'clock meetings, will she be at our 6 o'clock meetings also?
I would hope,
That's what we'd have to
I would
see.
hope. We need
If she's
to,
available,
Yes.
If she's available,
yes.
I think we'll get more accomplished if she is.
Mhm.
Right, definitely.
Okay. So I think that's how we'll proceed here. And put me in touch with Jess and let her know our thoughts going forward here with how we're going to work on these zoning changes. Okay. All right. At our last meeting, we made 3 recommendations to council. And as of now, none of them has come before full council at a public meeting. I understand they're being worked on. I actually, at last week's meeting, presented my end of the year report. And at that time, questioned why nothing had been done with any of these. in particular, that repeal of ordinance 929, that, to me, that was a no-brainer. Apparently, there's still work being done on the zoning for 740 South 12th Street. That's not ready to go to council, but that will have to, that was the property that we had zoned light business. Now they want it back to medium density because they're separating it out from the McGinnis property. And that's supposed to be going to public sale, to auction sometime in June, so that will have to be done before June. And they are, the recommendation we made to have the ordinance drawn up to make the changes to the rest of the McGinnis property, that's still apparently in solicitor. That's the one that we recommended that they have the ordinance drawn to come back to us for review, to go back to them for approval or denial. So I wanted to bring you up to date on our actions from last month.
What was the first ordinance, 929?
929, that's that one that was tabled in 2022,
Oh, yeah.
that one. And our recommendation was for council to bring that off the table and to deny it. And we recommended moving forward on the ordinance to rezone 740 South 12th Street. And we made the recommendation to have the ordinance drawn up regarding the changes for the McGinnis property. Okay. So we're moving forward with what we do have on our plate. Brad, do you have any questions for us?
When you define a business zone or a residential zone, what's the goal? I mean, what are you trying to control or master there? Historic type of dwellings, appearance?
Land use,
Land use is land use.
for the most part,
Mhm.
setbacks from property lines, density of housing are the big things. Yeah. The big is the land use, because it, like in the table, it'll say which types of uses are allowed in which district.
Mhm.
So keep the industrial things in industrial, and for the most part, businesses in business, but the lines are blurred. Small businesses or a house type of business can be done in a lot of residential districts too. But, that's defined as well, so it's not a disruptive type of thing. Yeah, I mean, I answered it for you. But
Yes, you did.
Sorry.
And I was
Very
letting you
well.
answer
Yeah,
it
you
because
paused, you
you're my
paused.
expert.
It's mostly the use of land.
Can I tell you, what is your title, Justin? You're
Zoning
zoning officer for
Yeah,
Mountjoy Township.
Right, yeah.
So I depend on Justin for a lot also because of his knowledge. He's been with Lancaster County Planning and he's a resident of the borough, and I'm very thankful to have him here because he can very well explain things that I have a
That's
struggle
the
explaining.
nutshell. of
That's the
zoning.
nutshell. Right.
How do you maintain that historic look of neighborhood? What's that?
The historic district ordinance governs that. And that historic look of the neighborhoods is governed by the harbor. So with us, we don't get into alterations to facades or such. A lot of times you will have something that is within the historic district that will have to go to both planning and park for approvals to move forward. So that historic look rests with HARB.
Being the Historic Architectural and Review Board. That's what HARP is.
Yeah, my history, I grew up in St. Louis, so,
Right,
yeah.
and you're just out of the historic district. You're a block above it.
Yes.
Yeah. So. So do you feel this is something you would want to be involved with? Give it some thought? There are documents that would be made available to you, which are things that the planning commission is governed by. There's the municipalities planning code, which is a state
Yeah, I
document.
certainly want to study some more.
What's that?
I certainly want to study some more.
Right. Our comp plan, which I hope is online, that was adopted on, I'm pushing the button.
No, I think this is complete.
We finally have a comp plan was adopted in September of last year. So that is out there. We have a subdivision and land development ordinance. We have a zoning ordinance. Those are documents that basically guide us in what we're doing here. And like with our agendas here and the things that are brought before us, a lot of that is what comes in the front door, goes to staff, and then comes to us. Like recently, one of the things that will be coming to us in the future, the near future, I'm assuming, is the subdivision plan for the McGinnis property. That is numerous parcels out there that all need to be made one. There are boundary lines that need to be identified. So things like that we will deal with also. Okay, and if you need any of these documents, if you can't find them online, I don't know if Paula, do you know if there's copies of anything down here?
Of what, I'm sorry.
Of the, our zoning I know our zoning ordinance is online.
Mhm.
And,
Chapter 2.
yeah, and the saldo, I'm not sure if that is online or not.
I am not sure if that's online. I have to research
The
it.
saldo is the subdivision and land development ordinance. When you hear saldo, it's subdivision and land development ordinance. I'm not finding it. Seriously.
Did someone say that their dog was on?
I thought it might
I
have
could have
been.
swore it was. Was that when it was being in progress or after? I don't know if I'd look for it after it was adopted.
I don't know either. So we'll see what we can do about the comp plan. I have your contact information. If,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Did you move in yet?
Closer.
No.
Okay. Okay, but I have your number here and, those items that aren't online that would give you an idea, I'll try to get to you. And if you have any questions in the meantime, I think Paula would be your contact here at the borough. Okay. I know I have a hard copy of the draft at home, but I do not have a copy of the final approved comp plan.
Mark said he would be getting us copies.
Yeah,
We did
that's
request that.
That's what I
hard
just
copies.
said to Paula. And she said he's working on it.
Yeah.
I have the binder.
It's thick.
I saw him leave work last week and he was exhausted.
Mhm. Okay. Is there anything else, Brad? We'll possibly have two Brads. We need to set you opposite.
Oh, I'm Brad.
Bookends.
what is it, Brad 1 and Brad 2, like thing 1 and thing 2?
I'm just
He's
Brad.
actually Brad.
There's no Bradley, it's just Brad.
Hey,
Yes, Nathan,
it's on the borough website.
it is.
Where?
Huh?
Where?
All I did was use the search function.
Which is what I did.
Would you search comp or comprehensive? I searched comprehensive.
Oh,
Or just do Columbia
Or
County,
Columbia.
Florida.
Yeah.
It's all there.
okay.
It's gonna drive me crazy.
The salary under.
It's gonna drive her crazier.
It's under what?
E-codes.
E-codes,
yeah,
okay,
right, that's right.
okay. Did you catch that, Brad?
All right.
Okay. But if there's anything else you feel you need, you know, Paula would be your contact. Okay,
Thank you for your interest.
Yes.
all right,
And
Eric,
welcome
thank you
in
for
the
your
meantime.
attendance. Any
Welcome to
questions,
Columbia.
comments this evening?
The thing I would say is for any new members or members of the new, well, I'd be a member. But the borough does offer trainings through Pennsylvania Association of Boroughs. You
Right,
just have to reach out and get a confirmation number. No pay for training. The training is available for everybody for all our committees. Zoning,
See,
water.
we used to get notice when there were different
Yeah.
sessions, and
yeah,
I haven't seen any since COVID.
Yeah, normally I get.
Just through email.
It needs to be passed on to the boards then,
Yes, you're
okay?
correct. And maybe we can work with that. Right, Paula?
Another fire.
I'm sorry, what are we working on?
But in the meantime,
Trainings.
if you go on the PSAB
Additional
Yes.
training,
And I think you can subscribe and get emails
Yeah.
whenever they offer courses in the area, because I get those.
I'll get this.
You're right, Eric.
you can
Get
join
those
us.
two.
on the
Yeah.
borough.
Forward down to council.
Yeah, because I took different courses,
Absolutely.
you know, on planning, on, you know, different, I took about 3 or 4 different courses through them, and I haven't seen anything, and the county
I don't know why
does,
It's pretty convenient because you can do it anytime.
yeah. Okay. So we'll get you that information also. Okay.
Saldo is also on the website.
Mm-hmm,
Did he say that?
yes, he did. Okay, there's a lot there. Any further comments, concerns, discussions this evening? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have Justin with the first,
in there
I have
faster.
Tiffany with the second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:37.
Spring,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Spring.
Mm.
Yeah, this week.
Yeah, a little different this.
11 o'clock. Still,